Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I am Adam Weiner, joined as always by Fansided MLB insider Robert Murray, and it's weird to be doing a show and not be promoting the winners of the Silver Slugger Award or like announcing prestigious victors or bringing pomp and circumstance. Today, we're right back to what we do best. I mean, I think we also did that pretty well, but now we're doing the normal thing that we do best, announcing our reactions to some of the rumors circulating here at the GM meetings. Robert Murray is boots on the ground in Las Vegas, the future home of Nick Kurtz, I think, maybe. The atmosphere seems nuts. He has found a spot to relax, and we are here to answer your questions and address what we've learned so far. Robert, how you doing, dude?
I'm great. It's good to be here. This is a bit of a different setup for me. I kind of look like a shadow figure, so my apologies if that comes off a little bit creepy. My laptop is not plugged in, so hopefully we're able to make it through the entire show. But let me tell you, this has been an action-packed few days here. I've had many conversations, so many late nights so far. Got one more remaining before I go back home to Scottsdale. My notebook is full. Was talking to the National League GMs yesterday. We'll be talking to the American League GMs here in a couple hours. I also just got done talking to Scott Boras for an hour, so it shall be pretty crazy. But let's dive right into this. How are we doing?
We're doing good. I feel like from what I saw, Scott Boras kind of went off the rails even more than usual. It wasn't even puns. It was kind of just like rhyming and alliteration and a bunch of words that began with the same letter. I think he called Cody Bellinger Iceman, but we'll get into all of that in a little bit. We've got plenty to cover. We'll also take everyone's questions, so please weigh into the comments if you've got specific players, specific rumors you want to talk about, and we don't have them on the big board. I will get Robert's thoughts. We thank everyone for joining us. 3 p.m. Eastern on a Wednesday afternoon. We're going to be moving this podcast to 3 days per week. Now that we're officially in the offseason, the World Series is done. We loved it. We hated it, depending on what country we're from. But it was pretty spectacular to watch all 7 games. But now it's done. Now we're moving on to rumor mill season and trades, free agent signings, what have you. The groundwork is being laid at the GM meetings this week. It could happen at any time. Just ask Andrew Kittredge. If you want to read more from Robert Murray and myself and Eric Cole from the Prospects Show and Fansided MLB's wonderful staff writers, come join us on the Baseball Insiders feed on fansided.com/baseball-insiders. You can get access to more Baseball Insiders. Ask Robert and I personal questions. Well, questions personally. Questions about rumors. Don't ask us personal questions, but join us in the Discord for personal interactions about professional questions. Keep it pro. We hope that you will. But yeah, become a member. Just hit that button below. Join us in that Discord. And again, 3 times per week on YouTube and on your favorite podcast platforms. Some of these shows going to be mini-sodes. Prospect content with Eric will be continuing through the offseason as well. But some of them going to be mega-sodes. And this one is a 44-minute crusher, breaking down everything that Robert has interacted with, spoken about, hinted at, pried about at the GM meetings thus far. And I already see some early comments about players we are going to be talking about for sure. But most importantly, you finally found some quiet space wherever this is. It seems like a well-lit room, even though you're a little more dimly lit than you'd want to be. What has the atmosphere been like on the ground so far now that you finally escaped the madness?
Yeah, it's been kind of a different feel of the GM meetings. It's like at the Cosmopolitan Hotel, and it's a mix of like probably 50% baseball people, but also 50% common folk. And it is kind of a unique blend. But typically, I mean, everyone's hanging out in the lobby area. The late night bar scene is definitely very busy, very active, just because that's where a lot of the networking and all that good stuff happens. But it's been busy. I've had a lot of people come up and that I've known or people that I don't even know and just talk to me and just start talking ball. And that's how the notebook ends up getting full. And that's kind of how we're how we got to this point right now. And I just am very anxious to dive right into it because there's a lot to talk about right now.
Yeah, I mean, talk about late night revelations. Katie Wu indicated that you're eating cheese now in one of her tweets. So obviously, a lot of news being
Confirmed.
broken. Expectations being shattered across the board. But I'll start off a little generally because we hear a lot about teams that are, there's been a lot of bluster early in the GM meetings. Teams like even the Pirates and Marlins, who maybe we don't expect much from in the offseason, making statements indicating there's going to be some movement in their ranks this year. A lot of different teams, a lot of the classic big spenders have already been associated with early projections and early big financial changes. Which teams that have been talked about so far do you believe, after spending some time with people in the know, do you earnestly believe will spend big? And which teams are less likely to live up to those expectations?
Yeah, I mean, there's so far it seems like a lot of these teams are going to be in a position to spend. And even talking to the National League teams yesterday, I was talking to Alex Anthopoulos of the Braves, and he listed off all their needs. Like he said, starting pitching, like bullpen, and they're going to be looking for a shortstop as well. And those are three big things. Even their chairman the other day said that they want to be in the top five in payroll, which would really seem to suggest that they're going to be spending big this offseason. How exactly that could look, I mean, as far as players, I don't know. But Anthopoulos was very transparent with the positions that he's going to be looking at. But the thing is shortstop. Like, who exactly could they end up targeting? Is it going to be a reunion with Kim? Is it Bo Bichette? Which I don't know if that would be the guy there. Do they explore the trade market? That's going to be something to monitor. But the Braves are a team I'm looking at, and I'll even say the Pirates here too. And I'm not talking. They're not going to spend like significant dollars by any means. But Ben Cherington even said like he's got more flexibility this offseason than he's had in more other off seasons that he's had in Pittsburgh. And what exactly that could look like, I don't know. They ended up saving money last year by trading Key Brian Hayes. And I would think they would reinvest that money back into the roster, maybe for another bat. Who knows? Maybe they could look at another bullpen arm. But it seemed like by talking to Cherington yesterday, they want to spend, and they're planning on doing so. What that could look like, I don't know. But one thing I will absolutely say is Ben Cherington definitively said yesterday that they will not be trading Paul Skeens and that he will be a Pirate in 2026. I know we've seen the rumors about Skeens and like reportedly telling people that he wants to be a Yankee.
Yeah.
I have no knowledge of that whatsoever. I have not gotten that anywhere confirmed. I've gotten it not exactly like I've gotten it denied, but yeah, I don't know how the heck that report came out there. Other teams that could end up being active, I think the Boston Red Sox should be a team that we monitor here because they have obviously Alex Bregman as a free agent. Even Scott Boras was saying that I mean they could end up being the team that we have to watch this offseason. So there's going to be plenty of different teams, but those are three teams that I'm watching early on so far this winter.
Yeah, Scott said no Brexit among the like hundreds of things he just said. So there we go. Yeah, the Skeens Yankees column. I mean, I think what we learned from that is that either that's not accurate or Paul Skeens has one of the worst teammates of all time with the Pirates. One of his Pirates teammates absolutely hates him and hates being in Pittsburgh to the point where he's just leaking, whether it's true or not, private conversations with Paul Skeens to a trusted source who they see every day. Oh, no, wait. Actually, Yankees beat writer Randy Miller apparently is the person that this current Pirate is talking to about Paul Skeens. Yeah, I would take that with a grain of salt big enough to run down Indiana Jones in a tunnel in a foreign temple. But thank you for asking that question, and obviously we will mention why isn't Adam boots on the ground? MLB Deadline News. I got to be boots in my house. I got to host this podcast. We can't both be at the Cosmo eating cheese all night. But we could. And hey, maybe it was great at the All-Star game. Maybe someday I will be joining for events, but good to stay home for now. Robert's taking the heavy lifting here, keeping everybody informed. And I'm facilitating it, which is a very fun thing to do. Look, I also want to just lay this before we go into specific teams and players. Early rumors indicated the 2027 lockout uncertainty might not be quite as big a deal this year as we might have expected it to be before these conversations began. Even last week when we saw the qualifying offers go out, I think a lot of people were like, ooh, Trent Grisham, like he might be just wanting that 1 year, $22 million. Like, are we sure he's going to explore the market? Are we sure he's going to get something better with the poison pill? But it came out, John Heyman reported yesterday he intends to decline it. You mostly give those out so that they do get declined, but we were all factoring the lockout in, maybe less of a factor than we thought. Have you gotten any indication from teams that, oh yeah, it's going to dominate our thinking, or the opposite of, hey, we're barely considering it, we're just going to go about business as usual?
Yeah, I would say my sense from talking to teams and also hearing Scott Boras today, it's going to be a case where a lot of these teams are going to end up being aggressive or they try to win, that it's going to be business as usual. Like there was one team, I believe it was Evan Grant, ended up mentioning that the Rangers might be in a position where they kind of lessen payroll a little bit. What exactly that could look like remains to be seen, but it seems like for the most part that a lot of these teams are going to be wanting to add this winter. There's going to be a lot of competition for these free agents, a lot of competition for on the trade market as well. I would think the biggest thing to watch for is exactly how does the potential lockout next season impact negotiations from a contract structure standpoint, because maybe teams want to be careful with the amount of money that they put for the 2027 season. I think that's something to watch. But as far as this offseason goes, I absolutely expect this to be a pretty active offseason. But that being said, GM meetings are where the groundwork is laid. There is nothing imminent to my knowledge. There's always deals that sneak in early during the early parts of the offseason. But as far as the GM meetings go, this is where the foundational pieces are laid for the offseason. We even heard AJ Preller mention yesterday is that this is kind of where the Juan Soto negotiations began with the Yankees. And they continued for a month, and then it got done at the winter meetings. And maybe those similar kind of conversations with other players are being had now. But yeah, this is where it all begins, and how the winter meetings and the other parts of the offseason become so active.
Speaking of things that could get done early, we had a Kyle from Waltham comment early here in the comment section, and he is the player who you mentioned in your TikTok, in your video from the GM meetings, that, hey, a lot of people are viewing Schwarber as a possible early mover, and you've connected him, and the people out there have connected him to both the Red Sox and his current team, the Philadelphia Phillies. How quickly do you think that timeline does move, and it's safe to say, simple enough to say that it does come down to those two?
No, I don't, well, I don't know about a time frame. I do know that as far as Schwarber goes, like people that I've talked to here expect the Red Sox to be involved. The Phillies love Schwarber, what he provides on the field and off the field, and just in the clubhouse as well. But that could be a negotiation where I genuinely don't have any sort of time frame on when that could possibly happen, but he is going to be extremely coveted. There's going to be more than just those two teams involved for a player that talented. And yeah, like obviously he's a DH, but just what he provides is so unique. And yeah, it could be anywhere from a 3 to 5 year contract for him. It's going to be probably north of $30 million. He's going to be very highly compensated this offseason, and there's going to be no shortage of teams. And I think he is the free agent that I'm watching the most, uh, really out of anyone at this point.
Yeah, Kyle and Bregman in the Seaport is going to be crazy this summer. Someone should tell Schwarber they got a Treehouse Brewing in downtown Boston now, very attractive destination for beer enthusiasts, of which I believe Kyle Schwarber is one, based on his Philly collab with Yards Brewing. So yeah, a lot of teams to watch. And again, no one is concerned with Kyle Schwarber's status as a DH. This projection in the comments, 4 years, 110 mil. I mean, to me, that feels a little low given the level of competition.
Yeah, that's four for 110 is going to be low from an annual average value standpoint. It's going to be more per year than that. Just a matter of how much more, but he'll get more. What is that, like 27.5? Is that right? That's quick math, so I could be way wrong.
That is correct. Quick math.
Boom. See, that is, I mean, you can't get, like, I would like to see Jeff Passan do that kind of math that quick. Like, yeah, bring it up. I say that lovingly. I love you, Jeff Passan, but yeah, well, shout out the math.
The reason we were looking at Schwarber for Boston regardless. Craig Breslow came out yesterday and said, quote, "There is just something about a bat in the middle of the lineup that forces another team to game plan against it that has a compounding effect on the rest of the roster." Now, never mind that he had one of those and Rafael Devers and alienated him, traded him, but does this make you believe it's almost a guarantee that Breslow is looking for a number 2 starter? We know that. We knew he was doing that at the deadline. They locked horns on Joe Ryan. And that feels like a natural. We're just all checking our watches, wondering when Joe Ryan gets done. But does this make you believe that, okay, number 2 starter, top priority, but big thumper like Schwarber or like Pete Alonso right up there alongside it? Do you think it's almost a guarantee he leaves the offseason with one of those two? And regardless of your answer there, what does Alonso's market look like early to you?
Yeah, as far as the Red Sox's plans go, they are going to be a team where they're going to be involved in that pitching market, like where they're going to want like a difference making starter. Even Breslow said that he's not going to want like a number 4 or 5 starter. He wants an impact guy. And he saw exactly the rewards for that when they ended up getting Garrett Crochet last year and then extended him. He was brilliant for the Red Sox. And if you can get another difference maker, like it's going to be hard to find a Garrett Crochet type. Let's just be real about that. But if you can get, let's say, a Joe Ryan or a Freddy Peralta, which we'll get into Peralta here in a little bit, that would be something that would be massive for them. As far as the odds of an extension for either one, that could be tough. Peralta is signed for only 1 more year. Ryan is a little bit more controllable than that, so that would be helpful. But that's going to be a priority for them. And then trying to get a bat, it's something that I feel like they are going to have to consider. And that's why I think Schwarber is such a good fit there. And you look at Schwarber and what he provided in Boston is power. It was a limited sample size for sure, but he was power, leadership, and Cora even said at one point during the season that he was very intrigued to watch Schwarber's free agency this year. Coming off of a season where he had 56 home runs, there is very few people like him in baseball. He's a very unique cat, both on the field and his leadership. And I've had people say he's the best leader that they've ever been around, which I feel like that's a pretty strong statement considering just the quality of people that there are in baseball. So I think it would be an organizational win for anyone who ends up getting Schwarber. But the competition is going to be fierce. As far as Alonso goes, Boras was really complimentary of him today, which obviously, I mean, that's his agent, so he's not going to bash him by any means. And the season he's coming off of, now winning his first Silver Slugger in his career, he is going to be in a position where he's going to have a bigger market this year than he did last year. And he should be in a position where he can cash in on a multi-year contract. Is that in New York? Is that elsewhere? That's something that a lot of people here are talking about. I don't know exactly where that one's going to end up going. I think Boras is going to have – it's going to be an interesting market for Alonso. And there's – I don't know. I just don't have a good feel on that one right now, if I'm being honest.
Interesting. Well, yeah, Boras complimentary. I'm waiting for the day when Scott Boras shows up to the GM meetings and is not complimentary of one of his key free agents. But Alonso, that first Silver Slugger, just hearing that it was wild when we announced it last week. It's wild now that, again, his literal first, the competition is just that fierce at first base in the NL and in the AL too. You're not escaping it if you cross leagues. But Alonso, one of the greatest in the game, and he should cash in to a similar extent. Last year, felt like he didn't get what he wanted from the Mets, lingered and loitered on the free agent market and eventually walked back, but only because he had the ability to renew his free agency this year and try again. I would expect him to be comfortable being patient and wait around until he's more satisfied this time.
Yeah. And that's also something he did last year too, where he waited on the market. And I mean, whether or not that was by choice or just a lack of market overall, I think maybe it was both. But last year he really wanted to be in Queens, but this year it seems, at least as of what Scott Boras said, he wants to be in a position where he'll win. So what contender is going to step up and get along? I still think if the Mariners are not able to retain Naylor, I think he'd be a really good fit for the Mariners. I mean, there's plenty of other teams that I think would be good fits there. Obviously the Mets, but he's one to watch for sure.
And I similarly think whoever does get Alonso is sending Naylor into the teams that don't get Alonso. And there are good fits all around at the first base position. If you need a first baseman, it's going to be hard to strike out this offseason. Like Robert said, we've got a few trade targets and trade markets on our personal doc to talk about on this show. But so many comments, I don't want to lose all these. I want to get back to a few of them. Armand asked, and you mentioned, Robert, the Braves earlier in the show in terms of how willing they seem to spend. They definitely are advertising that they want to improve what they've got going on, but they also did opt for continuity in Walt Weiss. And so that coaching staff, very familiar. So in a way, they're hedging, saying, hey, what happened last year is not going to happen again, but also, hey, we, are very willing to supplement what we've got. Armand bringing up the Dan Hayes report that came out late last night and early this morning about Byron Buxton potentially being willing to waive that no trade clause finally, only if Minnesota really goes off the deep end and Joe Ryan is gone and Pablo Lopez is gone. Buxton was emphatic at last year's All-Star game in Atlanta that he's a twin. I'm a twin. Don't even ask about this stuff. All of a sudden, it's not coming directly from him, but a little bit less emphatic. And Atlanta, the hometown Georgia boy, only natural that we would start connecting those two pieces. They even hired, as a coach, the pitcher from Buxton's home run derby appearance. So only natural to want to talk about this a little bit. What are the odds of this happening and of Atlanta being a factor? Because it's only going to happen if Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez get traded. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
will happen. So
I mean, the thing is here is this is a really unique case here for the Twins. Is they had an epic deadline sell-off. They did not move Lopez or Joe Ryan, and there were teams who tried hard for Joe Ryan. And do those conversations continue? Do teams offer more than they did at the deadline to push a deal across the finish line? That is a big question here. And I remember hearing even in the weeks leading up to the deadline that the Twins did not want to move Joe Ryan. So um, if Ryan stays, then I think Buxton stays. But if Ryan or Lopez move, then I think that conversation should be had because Buxton is signed to a very team-friendly deal. Let's just call it what it is. For a player that talented, obviously he's got an injury history that kind of limited his contract there for sure. But as far as a talent standpoint, he is as gifted as almost any player in ball. And there would be, if he's made available, there would be a lot of teams that would be involved in that. And some teams poke around about it at the deadline, but he was adamant that he was not going to do it. But the Braves would make sense. I mean, shoot, you could basically list almost every team in baseball at this point that would be interested in Byron Buxton. Do I expect him to be moved? Probably not, because he's been very adamant that he wants to stay in Minnesota. But as Dan said, and he did not miss on this, I can tell you that straight up. If they make a move where they sell off, that thought becomes much more realistic. So that's something that Derek Falvey and that front office really has to keep in mind here.
what about JS's comment here about the interest around Mitch Keller? Because you mentioned the Pirates being more willing, being more flexible. I feel like a lot of that begins with how much of Keller's contract they're able to shed with all of that young pitching coming up behind him. Keller, of course, valuable to an extent, but valuable to the level that a, high threes, low fours ERA, innings eater guy is, and he's not on a contract befitting of that for a team like the Pirates. The Yankees can pay Mitch Keller what he's currently making to do what he's doing. But can the Pirates, given all that pitching talent, is that the best allocation of resources? So if you're telling me the Pirates are going to be more flexible, it does feel like some of that begins with moving Keller's money in the same way they moved Brian Hayes' money.
Yeah, but the thing is with Hayes is they got talent back in return, and they weren't just going to get rid of his contract just to get rid of it. And in the case of Keller, it's going to be the same thing here. They need something meaningful in return, and all indications that I had is that the offers that they were getting at the deadline were not what they were even close to looking for. So, unless they get something good in return, I anticipate him staying. But would they be open to it? I feel like they have to listen because that's what all teams do in baseball. But what I can confidently say is that Cherington, when he was talking about the Pirates and specifically Paul Skeens, the best way to keep Skeens in Pittsburgh is by winning, because winning is very important to Paul Skeens. That's something that he's had conversations with Skeens about. It's something that they've thought about a lot internally, is how they win. And by having that flexibility, it gives you the option to keep Keller and also add in free agency or over trade. Maybe it could look like trading Keller and then having even more money to spend on the roster as well. But like, their pitching is in good shape, but they absolutely have to upgrade the offense. Like, their offense last year was not good at all, and that's putting it lightly. This offseason, if they're with them signaling that they have money to spend, that they have flexibility, they have to bolster the offense. And I expect them to, after talking to Ben Cherington yesterday, but he's going to ultimately have to prove it here.
And here comes Connor Griffin, and here comes Esmerlin Valdez, and here comes Tamar Johnson. There are names internally. It's going to have to be slightly bigger deals than Tommy Pham for Pirates fans to get really excited about the external help. And as Uncle Ted says, Jock Peterson blows. Always love to see that comment in a stream about the GM meetings. It's true. At this moment in time, has been very good lately, but not sure. I'm looking for relevant comments that come up on that. I can't help but call it out. We appreciate everybody joining us, of course, weighing in the comments. We're going to get to plenty more, but I do want to talk about some of the popular trade candidates, some of the all of a sudden rumored trade candidates, but one name who I know you did a lot of reporting on over the last couple of days, Freddy Peralta, and that trade buzz. Is it dying down, heating up? I mean, Matt Arnold, it felt like to me he was sitting on both sides of the fence while talking about Peralta, but he also was saying what we all know, in that, hey, this is an immensely valuable chip at this salary. That means he's valuable to us too.
Yeah, and so this is my read on the Brewers' stance, is they are going to listen on Peralta. Even Matt Arnold said, like, almost every team in baseball is interested in Freddy Peralta, but they are not in a hurry to trade him. And I asked Arnold straight up, I'm like, is this kind of like a Willie Adames situation where you have a player with Peralta where, I mean, he's been with the organization since he was a teenager. They've watched him grow up. Now he's got kids that are running around in the clubhouse too, and his impact obviously on the mound, he's their ace. He is extremely important to that clubhouse. Everything about him screams like what the Milwaukee Brewers are all about. And he agreed that it's like an Adames situation where he might just be too valuable of a player in person for them to part ways with, and where they want to have him in 2026. And he said he anticipates him being on the roster, but that they've also had to make tough decisions in previous years with guys like Corbin Burns or Josh Hader, and they've moved on from both of those players, and they got very important pieces back in return that shaped them to the team that they are today. But that being said, there's a key difference here with Burns and Peralta. Is Burns was making, I want to say, around 15 million or 16 million in arbitration, while Peralta is only making 8 million bucks. That is extremely affordable for an ace. And it also increases his trade value, but it also increases his value to the Milwaukee Brewers and allows them to be able to keep him. And it's a really tough call. I don't think the Brewers even know exactly how this is going to go, but they will listen. But my feel by talking to Arnold yesterday is that they want to keep him way more than they want to trade him. So, um, but yeah, that's going to be a conversation that dominates the entire offseason here, and it's not going away. The conversation is growing louder, but I don't think we're going to see a trade as of this point.
Like you said, the groundwork is being laid behind the scenes this week. The groundwork of the narrative is also being laid, and this is the narrative that Matt Arnold is certainly wanting to get out on the early portion of the offseason as the GM meetings begin. Other possible, yeah.
Oh, so sorry to cut you off.
No, no.
There you go. I thought my screen froze for a second. But the other Brewer piece that I wanted to mention, and shout out to Uncle Ted. That was a good comment by you, Uncle Ted. I appreciate you. Brandon Woodruff, the Brewers extended him a qualifying offer. They signed him they offered him, I believe it's a little bit north of 22 million bucks, which it's a lot of money for a small market team like the Brewers. And Arnold even called them the smallest market in baseball. But they want to keep Woodruff. They believe he is well worth the 22 million bucks. And I wonder too, if let's say Woodruff ends up accepting that, does that possibly increase the chances of a Peralta trade? That part I don't know. But I think that's another element of this equation that we need to keep in mind here as well.
Yeah, again, I think when that QO goes out, I think a lot of people are thinking, I'm not sure about we've spoken about the future of Woodruff and the Brewers a lot, and now it does seem like he's still an important cog, not someone they're overlooking. Other names, confounding ones, I think, like Bob Nightingale has done a lot of, he sort of got the ball rolling on Fernando Tatis Jr. as a trade candidate. Ketel Marte is someone we talked about on the Silver Slugger show, and you got talked about a lot in August when there seemed to be real dissatisfaction and discontent boiling over. Thoughts on those names, likelihood, or how much have they been circulated even during the GM meetings after sort of that bombshell column kicked things off?
Yeah, so I've been doing some digging on Ketel Marte, and my feel is that, like, yeah, they're going to listen, but they're not particularly motivated to move Marte. And I mentioned before with Peralta about how good his contract is, and the Diamondbacks feel the exact same way about his contract. They think they have a real value there for the kind of player that he is at second base. He is a very important player for them offensively. You could argue that he's their best player or one of their best players for sure. Um, but yeah, they're going to listen. They're going to see what's out there. But I got the sense from talking to people around the league that I don't think it's particularly likely that Marte is moved. Wait, what was the other one again? Marte and
Tatis Jr.
Oh yeah, that one kind of caught me off guard. I can't see the Padres moving Tatis Jr. Like the thing. Okay, so I wanna say this is there's always teams who check in on players during the offseason. Like almost every player is asked about in conversations because you never know what can end up happening. I mean, that's exactly how Micah Parsons got traded. That's how Sauce Gardner got traded. That's how, I mean, some of these really big names have gotten moved in previous years because it never hurts to ask. The worst you can hear is no. The one thing I know about how AJ Preller operates is he will listen on anything. And he's open to as many different scenarios as possible. And I just can't see that being something that happens. And we also got to keep in the back of our minds too, is that Tatis Jr. has a no trade or a full no trade clause, which significantly impacts the equation here. And $340 million for a player of his caliber, it's not a bad contract by any means. He's got to stay healthy, and I just can't see the Padres being in a hurry to move on from that. So I'm guessing probably not. But I will say this: I've always been curious about AJ Preller and what exactly his trade deadlines look like, because I told him straight up last deadline was even busy by your standards, and I was like, how much do you sleep during that? And he told me, he said he goes to bed at about 3 o'clock in the morning and wakes up at about 4:30 in the morning, so he gets about an hour and a half of sleep. And I was like, do you drink coffee? How the heck do you stay up and do your thing? And he's like, pure adrenaline. And he just drinks Gatorade, he drinks chocolate milk. He is as unique as any executive in ball. But it is clear he loves talking ball. He loves talking different trade scenarios, which is why, you can never rule anything out with AJ Preller, but I just can't see that moving Tatis.
Yeah, just pure adrenaline, tiger blood. For those wondering, this podcast is fueled on Trader Joe's maple pecan cold brew concentrate, so it's working.
Wait, did you say pecan or?
Oh yeah, maple pecan cold brew concentrate. I don't know, limited time offering. So head to your Trader Joe's today.
Isn't it pecan?
Pecan. I think weigh in the comments. Who's got
I also want Joanne, our lovely producer for the show today. I want her to weigh in as well, because I'm very curious for her thoughts on this. This
is a private message, yeah.
Yeah, this is the kind of GM content everyone was tuning in for sure.
She's typing. Oh, I'm being told Robert's correct.
That very rare that this happens. I will say, I had Fabian Ardai, who's one of my dearest, or no, it was Russ Dorsey yesterday. He said that I was right yesterday, which about just a food take, which never happens. So the fact that I've been right twice with food related things, that's a big thing for me.
Yeah, I should have said it more Cajun. We will take your pecan questions as they come, so please weigh in. Let us know if you got them. But we see a lot of great comments here, of course, to go through. And by we, I mean me desperately trying to change the narrative from saying pecan wrong. Jarren Duran's coming up a whole bunch here. We got some great Guardian questions from Cooper as well. I think that's a commenter and not your dog.
You never know. His sitter's letting him do some fun stuff. So you never know.
Sitter just let him go wild on the computer asking questions about the Cleveland Guardians on the trade market. But Duran is certainly available. I would say Duran is we know the Padres have liked him in years past. We know the Royals were just connected to the Red Sox in an outfield trade. Just a couple of, I think that was yesterday afternoon. So thoughts on Cleveland and Duran, or what Cleveland is searching for in general?
Yeah, Cleveland is I'm going to start with the outfield market in general here, because I expect the outfield market to be active for sure. It's going to be a market where teams are going to be asking about all sorts of different guys here via trade, and Jarren Duran is going to be a player who's asked about for sure. He's been mentioned in trade rumors in recent years, and I expect that to happen again. As far as the likelihood goes, kind of a wait and see kind of feel at that point, but Cleveland absolutely makes sense as far as adding him or just a bat or two in general, because you add some more power or just depth and talent to that lineup, you could be really cooking there with gas. But obviously now they're might need some bullpen help after losing Clase and Ortiz, pending investigations and everything like that. And but yeah, that's a team that I expect to be definitely feeling around on the outfield market. I think Duran makes sense. But Kansas City also, they've been mentioned with outfielders seemingly for the last off season or two. We even saw, what was it? Someone reported last year that the Angels were close to trading one of their outfielders. I don't know if it was to the Royals or whatever. They were never close. I should say that. But maybe that could be a fit, but I don't get the sense that the Angels are really in a hurry to move either of their outfielders at this point.
We've also, I think the crowd and the comments, they're aligned on one question. Do the Blue Jays plan to stay goated? Question 5 wants to know. So does another. We've got multiple commenters asking the same. Brendan Kuhn also wants to know if the Blue Jays plan to stay goated. We're seeing the Blue Jays connected to Kyle Tucker a little bit. So my impression would be that they are entering this offseason with the kind of ferocity that a team that was that close to winning the World Series would, spending top of market. If it's not Tucker, it's probably going to be Bichette, somebody else. I mean, they know what they're doing, and they know they're on the precipice of something special. So how goated do the Blue Jays plan to be?
They should. I feel like they're going to spend, and that's something that I've heard about plenty. And that's the way that you phrase "goated" is that it sounds like you got it from Gresham 5. So
Yeah, not my
there we go.
phrase. Not
There
my
we go. Sorry, I got distracted. I almost had someone that I know very well approach me during the show here. I'm just like, yeah, I can't have that happen. That would not be very good.
You are
Um,
live.
yeah, that would have been quite bad. But Gresham 5, they will be goated just for you. That would I expect them to spend. Maybe even significantly, whether that's Bo Bichette, could that be Kyle Tucker? Could that be, I mean, there could be a lot of different scenarios here, but Toronto is a desirable place to be. Like, I know people talk about their failed pursuits as Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani. Like, I get it. Like, they were runners up for sure, but that is a place, especially coming off of being that close to winning a World Series, people are going to want to be there in Toronto. And we even saw Shane Bieber accept a well below market value um, contract to stay there. And I mean, he basically signed for 1 year for 12 million, which is an absolute steal. With the 4 million buyout, I'm not factoring that in, but it was a very curious decision. But the thing is like I was talking about it with a bunch of people here, is we so often forget that players are people too. They want to be where they want to be. They want to be where they like being and just where they feel valued. And it's clear that Bieber felt that way, that he feels comfortable in Toronto. And I would not be surprised at all if Toronto becomes like a go-to destination for some of these free agents.
Question from Al Hershen at the most recent, asking if they're, Cody Bellinger to the Mets. Is that smoke potentially accurate? There was an earlier question about Bellinger and the Dodgers. It does feel like the Bellinger teams that are going to get rumored are the Mets. Obviously, we're nowhere close, but we've heard the Mets have interest. The Dodgers have been connected. The Phillies have been connected. Obviously, Scott Boras addressing Bellinger today in a manner that was basically like, he proved himself with the Yankees. The Yankees want to get even better. They don't want to go backwards. So you're going to be hearing those four teams a lot, I think. But whoever's connected to Bellinger, it's going to be the wealthiest clubs on the market. Does that see the market obviously yet to clarify, but the expectation is it's going to be a lot of big market teams bidding for Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, and even Boris said today he's the only 5 tool outfielder on the market, which kind of felt like a shot at Kyle Tucker a little bit, which kind of thought that was a little strange. But another point that he ended up making here too is you look at Bellinger where he's played. He's played in Chicago, he's played in LA, and he's played in New York, the three biggest markets in ball. And like that is going to be very important for him because he's thrived in each environment. And if he can win there, if he can win there and also succeed there, he can succeed anywhere. And he's going to have a big market this offseason. He had a huge year in the Bronx. Is a reunion there impossible? Like, I don't think so. Is the Mets' interest real? Like, yeah, John was right about that. John Heyman was first to mention the Mets' interest in Bellinger. But those are just going to be two of the many teams that are going to be involved in this kind of thing. And like, I still think that Kyle Tucker is the number one free agent on the market. That's no slight at Cody Bellinger. I just really like Kyle Tucker. But Bellinger is going to be in a position where he can do very well. And this should be the year that he really cashes in here in free agency.
Yeah, only 5-tool free agent outfielder, you say, Scott Boras. How was the Scott Boras availability from your perspective, by the way? Like, how much do you get out of that? How much do you laugh at it? I mean, what did he say that really stood out in terms? I mean, that obviously the mini shot at Tucker, but anything else noteworthy that you took away? Like, I mean, the Bregman wants to stay kind of thing, the Brexit stuff. I mean, what stood out to you?
I would say just how punny he was. Like, it was more puns and more humor than I've ever seen from Scott Boras. And I laughed for sure, but it's not exactly my most favorite event, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I try not to live tweet it, but yeah, it's a spectacle for sure. And you can tell he just eats it up by any means. But he's got, I mean, as far as his free agents go, like he's got players for sure. I mean, that's always the case with him. He's got Bregman, he's got Cease, he's got Bellinger, he's got, I mean, Alonso. There's a bunch of other players that he has too. He's going to be very busy, but He's I would say that was probably, of all of his puns in different years, that's the most puns I've ever seen out of Boras by far.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't live tweet it because nobody else. I didn't get a chance to read it. Oh no, wait, everyone on Earth live tweeted it. Sorry, throwing shade. Thank you for live tweeting, Scott Boras. Running through a few more comments. We appreciate everybody joining us. We got a couple minutes left. Second Grips asking any chance Jason Dominguez gets moved. Yep, it's possible. You're saying no chance.
I mean, I'm not. I don't think it's very likely. I mean, there's always like a chance, but I don't think that's overly likely. That same with Spencer Jones. The Yankees really like to hold on to the top guys like that, but I've been surprised before. But I don't know. I don't see that at this point.
Interesting. We talked a bit about Ward and Adele, but we have a lot of people weighing in at the end asking for any Angels thoughts or any inclination that they're going to spend at all. We know it's a fickle game predicting the Angels, but the latest you're hearing out of their camp.
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible that they could spend big, but I think it's more likely that they spend in moderation, that they try to upgrade the roster where they can get to the point of being a playoff team, which is why I don't think that they move guys like Taylor Ward or Joe Adele or anyone quite like that. I mean, could they be blown away with an offer? For sure, especially with so many teams looking for outfield help. But Artie Moreno has never been a player or never been an owner who wants to really sell off and not make the postseason. He typically tries to play into October. But I don't see them moving any of those guys, but I expect them to add. And this is also a crucial year for Perry. Like I feel like you got to make the postseason here. So I feel like that's also an element that's got to be factored in here as well. But I'm going to be talking to him here in probably an hour and 15 minutes. So I can get a more definitive answer there. And then I can report back for Friday's show. But this will be a fun conversation here with the ALGMs.
Yeah, we're going to be back on Friday again. Everyone checking in, same time, same place. So if you're on the Baseball Insider for the first time, because here comes the off season, welcome. We're glad to have you join us on the Discord as well. Hit the join button below. Send us additional messages and questions. Robert will get to as many of them as he can. But again, we're going to be super active on this channel and on all podcast platforms. So help us get those download numbers up. We appreciate all the interaction here in the comments. We hope we answered as many of your questions as we could. We had a packed slate. Anything else, Robert, in the notebook that I forgot to mention that we got to do before we sign off?
Yeah, I'll get after this one from VS because Drew also wants it answered as well. What are the chances of the Padres going after, what was it, Diaz or Amaya?
Yeah, Edwin Diaz or Imai.
Yeah, I would say this is that the Padres consider and evaluate almost any option that they possibly can. And with Robert Suarez, no guarantee to return, maybe that's something that they could end up evaluating. Do I think it's overly likely at this point? Not exactly positive on that. But I will say this, AJ Preller leaves no stone unturned. We saw them do it even last year by signing Nick Pivetta to a very uniquely structured contract where I believe it was only $1 million in the beginning, or $1 million in the first year. So it's possible, but I don't know necessarily how likely that is.
Perfect. Appreciate the question. Of course, I wanted to get to the Padres as well. Anything else in the notebook that you have that we haven't touched on the show?
I would say, let me open up my old trusty notebook real quick, because then I can. How much time do we have left, Adam?
You got about a minute.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. As far as the Cubs go, they are looking at pitching over hitting. They are looking. They need bullpen arms. Last year, they really prioritized Matthew Boyd, and even Hoyer thought maybe we could have, or maybe they evaluated him higher than some other teams did. Which, I mean, that's typically how these negotiations go and how teams end up getting players is like, if you target a guy, you're going to pay more to sign him. But one player that they obviously are going to be tied to is Kyle Tucker. Not necessarily sure that a reunion there is overly likely. Things could change, but they are going to maintain conversations there with his agent, Casey Close of Excel Sports Management.
Appreciate the Tucker note. We're going to do a lot of Tucker exclamation points this offseason. I hope you'll all join us as we go through it. Just need one big player movement piece, and then we'll really be cooking. For Robert Murray, I'm Adam Winder, live from the GM meetings. Take care, everybody. We'll see you on Friday.
Take care, buddy.